The Palestinian National Authority is the interim self-government body established to govern the Gaza Strip and areas A and B of the West Bank, as a consequence of the 1993 Oslo Accords. Following elections in 2006 and the subsequent Gaza conflict between the Fatah and Hamas parties, its authority had extended only in areas A and B of the West Bank. Since January 2013, the Fatah-controlled Palestinian Authority uses the name of State of Palestine on official documents. The Palestinian Authority was formed in 1994, pursuant to the Oslo Accords between the Palestine Liberation Organization and the Government of Israel, as a 5-year interim body. Further negotiations were then meant to take place between the two parties regarding its final status. According to the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority was designated to have exclusive control over both security-related and civilian issues in Palestinian urban areas and only civilian control over Palestinian rural areas. The remainder of the territories, including Israeli settlements, the Jordan Valley region and bypass roads between Palestinian communities, were to remain under Israeli control. East Jerusalem was excluded from the accords. Negotiations with several Israeli governments had resulted in the authority gaining further control of some areas, but control was then lost in some areas when the Israel Defense Forces retook several strategic positions during the Second Intifada. In 2005, after the Second Intifada, Israel withdrew unilaterally from its settlements in the Gaza Strip, thereby expanding Palestinian Authority control to the entire Strip. However, the National Unity Palestinian government effectively collapsed when a violent conflict between Hamas and Fatah erupted, mainly in the Gaza Strip, after the Gaza Strip was taken over by Hamas on 14 June 2007. The authority's chairman Mahmoud Abbas dismissed the Hamas-led unity government and appointed Salam Fayyad as prime minister, dismissing Harriya. The move wasn't recognized by Hamas, thus resulting in two separate administrations, the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and a rival Hamas government in the Gaza Strip. The reconciliation process to unite the Palestinian governments achieved some progress over the years, but had failed to produce a reunification. The PA received financial assistance from the European Union and the United States. All direct aid was suspended on 7 April 2006, as a result of the Hamas victory in parliamentary elections. Shortly thereafter, aid payments resumed, but were channeled directly to the offices of Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank. Since 9 January 2009, when Mahmoud Abbas' term as president was supposed to have ended and elections were to have been called, Hamas supporters and many in the Gaza Strip have withdrawn recognition for his presidency and instead consider Aziz Dweik, who served as the Speaker of the House in the Palestinian Legislative Council, to be the acting president until new elections can be held. In 2011, representatives of the authority failed to have their United Nations status upgraded, although their UNESCO status was upgraded to state representation. In November 2012, however, the United Nations voted to recognize Palestine as a non-member UN observer state. History. Establishment. The Oslo Accords were signed on 13 September 1993 between the Palestine Liberation Organization and Israel. The Gaza-Jericho Agreement was signed on 4 May 1994 and included an Israeli withdrawal from Jericho area, partially from the Gaza Strip, and detailed the creation of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian Civil Police Force. This was an interim organization created to administer a limited form of Palestinian self-governance in the areas A and B in the West Bank and Gaza Strip for a period of 5 years, during which final status negotiations would take place. The Palestine Central Council, itself acting on behalf of the Palestine National Council of the PLO, implemented this agreement in a meeting convened in Tunis from 10–11 October 1993, making the Palestinian Authority accountable to the PLO Executive Committee. The administrative responsibilities accorded to the PA were limited to civil matters and internal security and did not include external security or foreign affairs. Palestinians in the diaspora and inside Israel were not eligible to vote in elections for the officers of the Palestinian Authority. The PA was legally separate from the Palestine Liberation Organization, which continues to enjoy international recognition as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, representing them at the United Nations under the name of Palestine. General elections were held for its first legislative body, the Palestinian Legislative Council, on 20 January 1996. The expiration of the body's term was 4 May 1999, but elections were not held because of the prevailing coercive situation. Second Intifada. On 7 July 2004, the Quartet of Middle East mediators informed Ahmed Kareh, Prime Minister of the PA from 2003 to 2006, that they were sick and tired of the Palestinians' failure to carry out promised reforms. If security reforms are not done, there will be no international support and no funding from the international community. On 18 July 2004, United States President George W. Bush stated that the establishment of a Palestinian state by the end of 2005 was unlikely due to instability and violence in the Palestinian Authority. Following Arafat's death on the 11th of November 2004, Rawhi Fatu, leader of the Palestinian Legislative Council, became acting president of the Palestinian Authority as provided for in Article 54 of the Authority's Basic Law and Palestinian Elections Law. On 19 April 2005, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, agreed to aid the Palestinian Authority, stating, "We support the efforts of President Abbas to reform the security services and fight against terrorism. If we are waiting for President Abbas to fight terrorism, he cannot do it with the resources he has now. We will give the Palestinian Authority technical help by sending equipment, training people. We will give the Palestinian Authority helicopters and also communication equipment." The Palestinian Authority became responsible for civil administration in some rural areas, as well as security in the major cities of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, although the 5-year interim period expired in 1999. The final status agreement has yet to be concluded despite attempts such as the 2000 Camp David Summit, the Taba Summit, and the unofficial Geneva Accords. In August 2005, Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon began his disengagement from the Gaza Strip, ceding full effective internal control of the Strip to the Palestinian Authority but retained control of its borders including air and sea. This increased the percentage of land in the Gaza Strip nominally governed by the PA from 60% to 100%. A mass-Fatah conflict. Palestinian legislative elections took place on 25 January 2006. Hamas was victorious and Ismail Haniyeh was nominated as Prime Minister on 16 February 2006 and sworn in on 29 March 2006. However, when a Hamas-led Palestinian government was formed, the quartet conditioned future foreign assistance to the Palestinian Authority on the future government's commitment to non-violence, recognition of the State of Israel, and acceptance of previous agreements. Hamas rejected these demands, which resulted in the quartet's suspension of its foreign assistance program and Israel imposed economic sanctions. In December 2006, Ismail Haniyeh, Prime Minister of the PA, declared that the PA will never recognize Israel. "We will never recognize the usurper Zionist government and will continue our jihad-like movement until the liberation of Jerusalem," in an attempt to resolve the financial and diplomatic impasse. The Hamas-led government, together with Fatah chairman Mahmoud Abbas, agreed to form a unity government. As a result, Hurriya resigned on 15 February 2007 as part of the agreement. The unity government was finally formed on 18 March 2007 under Prime Minister Ismail Hurriya and consisted of members from Hamas, Fatah, and other parties and independents. The situation in the Gaza Strip, however, quickly deteriorated into an open feud between the Hamas and Fatah, which eventually resulted in the Brothers' War. After the takeover in Gaza by Hamas on 14 June 2007, Palestinian Authority Chairman Abbas dismissed the government and on 15 June 2007 appointed Salam Fayyad Prime Minister to form a new government. Though the new government's authority is claimed to extend to all Palestinian territories, in effect it became limited to the Palestinian Authority-controlled areas of the West Bank, as Hamas hasn't recognized the move. The Fayyad government has won widespread international support. Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia said in late June 2007 that the West Bank-based cabinet formed by Fayyad was the sole legitimate Palestinian government, and Egypt moved its embassy from Gaza to the West Bank. Hamas, which government has an effective control of the Gaza Strip since 2007, faces international diplomatic and economic isolation. In 2013, political analyst Hilal Frisch from Bar-Ilan University's BESA Center noted that the PA is playing a double game with regards to battling Hamas. There's coordination if not cooperation with Israel. But on the political front, the PA is trying to generate a popular intifada. Two administrations since the Hamas-Fatah split in 2007. The Fatah-dominated Palestinian Authority, based in areas of the West Bank, had stabilized, though no significant economic growth had been achieved. Politically, until 2012, there had also been no progress in promotion of PNA status in the UN, as well as no progress in negotiations with Israel. Ramallah-based Palestinian Authority stayed out of the Gaza war in 2008-2009, which followed the six-month truce between Hamas and Israel, which ended on 19 December 2008. Hamas claimed that Israel broke the truce on 4 November 2008, though Israel blamed Hamas for an increasing rocket fire directed at southern Israeli towns and cities. The 2008-2009 Israel-Gaza conflict began on 27 December 2008. Though condemning Israel over attacks on Gaza, the Palestinian Authority erected no actions during the conflict of Israel with Hamas. The reconciliation process between Fatah and Hamas reached intermediate results by the two governments, most notably the agreement in Cairo on 27 April 2011, but with no final solution, though the two agreed to form a unity government and to hold elections in both territories within 12 months of the establishment of such a government. It had not been implemented. The 2011 deal also permitted the entry of Hamas into the Palestine Liberation Organization and holding of elections to its Palestine National Council decision-making body. Not implemented as well. The deal was further ratified in the 2012 Hamas-Fatah Doha Agreement, which was made with the background of Hamas relocation from Damascus due to the simmering Syrian civil war. In 2011, PNA representatives failed to upgrade their status in the UN, receiving state status only in UNESCO. Since late August 2012, Palestinian National Authority has been swept with social protests aiming against the cost of living. The protesters targeted the Palestinian Prime Minister Salam Fayyad, calling for his resignation. Some anti-government protests turned violent. On the 11th of September, Palestinian Prime Minister issued a decree on lowering the fuel prices and cutting salaries of top officials. In July 2012, it was reported that Hamas government in Gaza was considering to declare the independence of the Gaza Strip with the help of Egypt. On August 2012, Foreign Minister of the PNA Riyad al-Malki told reporters in Ramallah that PNA would renew effort to upgrade the Palestinian status to full member state at the UN General Assembly on the 27th of September 2012. By September 2012, with their application for full membership stalled due to the inability of Security Council members to make a unanimous recommendation, Palestine had decided to pursue an upgrade in status from observer entity to non-member observer state. On the 27th of November it was announced that the appeal had been officially made, and would be put to a vote in the General Assembly on the 29th of November, where their status upgrade was expected to be supported by a majority of states. In addition to granting Palestine non-member observer state status, the draft resolution expresses the hope that the Security Council will consider favorably the application submitted on the 23rd of September 2011 by the State of Palestine for admission to full membership in the United Nations, endorses the two-state solution based on the pre-1967 borders, and stresses the need for an immediate resumption of negotiations between the two parties. On Thursday, the 29th of November 2012, in a 138-9 vote, United Nations General Assembly Resolution 67/19 passed, upgrading Palestine to non-member observer state status in the United Nations. The new status equates Palestine's with that of the Holy See. The change in status was described by The Independent as de facto recognition of the sovereign state of Palestine. The vote was a historic benchmark for the partially recognized state of Palestine and its citizens, whilst it was a diplomatic setback for Israel and the United States. Status as an observer state in the UN allows the State of Palestine to join treaties and international organizations, such as the International Civil Aviation Organization, the Law of the Seas Treaty and the International Criminal Court. It permits Palestine to claim legal rights over its territorial waters and airspace as a sovereign state recognized by the UN, and allow the Palestinian people the right to sue for control of their territory in the International Court of Justice and to refer relevant crimes committed in Palestinian territory to the International Criminal Court for investigation and possible prosecution, if Palestine is unwilling or unable to pursue prosecution. On the 23rd of April 2014, Ismail Haniyeh, the Prime Minister of Hamas, and a senior Palestine Liberation Organization delegation dispatched by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas signed the Fatah-Hamas Gaza Agreement at Gaza City in an attempt to create reconciliation in the Fatah-Hamas conflict. It stated that a unity government should be formed within 5 weeks, ahead of a presidential and parliamentary election within 6 months. The Palestinian Unity Government of 2014 formed on the 2nd of June 2014 as a national and political union under Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. The European Union, the United Nations, the United States, China, India, Russia and Turkey all agreed to work with it. The Israeli government condemned the unity government because it views Hamas as a terrorist organization. The Palestinian Unity Government first convened in Gaza on 9 October 2014 to discuss the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip following the 2014 Israel-Gaza conflict. On 30 November 2014, Hamas declared that the unity government had ended with the expiration of the 6-month term. But Fatah subsequently denied the claim and said that the government is still in force. 2013 name change. The UN has permitted the Palestine National Authority to title its representative office to the UN as the Permanent Observer Mission of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, and Palestine has started to retitle its name accordingly on postal stamps, official documents and passports. whilst it has instructed its diplomats to officially represent the State of Palestine, as opposed to the Palestine National Authority. Additionally, on 17 December 2012, UN Chief of Protocol Yochil Yoon decided that the designation of State of Palestine shall be used by the Secretariat in all official United Nations documents. Geography. The Palestinian territories refers to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The Palestinian Authority currently administers some 39% of the West Bank. 61% of the West Bank remains under direct Israeli military and civilian control. East Jerusalem was unilaterally annexed by Israel in 1980, prior to the formation of the PA. Since 2007, Gaza has been governed by the Hamas government in Gaza.